Cycle Jerks.
Hey, get out of the road, dummy.
Cycle Jerks Podcast.
All right, welcome everybody to Cycle Jerks Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Stewart, and today we have three members of the Enjoy Cycling team fresh off their return from Unbound Gravel. Jeremy Ferguson, Chef Scotty Ostrander, and Vince Murdock. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I thought it'd be great to get you guys on because we all just went through this, this crazy journey that is the Unbound Gravel experience presented by Lifetime. And for me, and I guess Jeremy, Scotty, was this your first time also?
No, I did the 200 last year.
You did the 200.
Boom. Let them know.
Yeah, buddy. Okay. So, and Vince and Scotty, I guess, have done it 2 years now. But man, I'm still decompressing from the whole thing. The one thing that I was super impressed with was with Lifetime and this event specifically was the tracking ability. We had this tracker thing, and all my family was like watching on this dots. I was getting texts the whole time. My phone
Yeah.
died because I fell in a puddle, and the phone was on the fritz the whole time, so I didn't know. But yeah, I got a ton of texts once I was able to get my phone back up. But the whole experience really cool. What was your guys' take on it?
Okay, I'll start.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm always really impressed with the promotion. The amount of volunteers that I feel like that I saw there was just impressive to see. You can tell that they've spent a lot of time trying to um, cater to this event. And it was just it's really cool to see the whole town really come together to make this work. So it's always, in the 2 years that I've done it, it's always really cool to come out and just see how much goes in to facilitating, a lot of people's biggest day ever on a bike. I really think that's kind of what Unbound is for the majority of these, these cyclists is, facilitating their biggest day. I know it's my biggest day, 2 years in a row. But for a lot of people, even the 200 is their biggest day. And for a lot of people, it's the 100. So, yeah, as far as the event itself, it's just always so cool to really come back and participate in something that looks very, very professional. And there's just so many, abilities to meet new people and, share your ride with them, share your time with them, and share your experiences with them. And, I remember doing it the first time and where we had a solid crew that it came out the last year, but I remember coming back and I just, it was really important to me, or it really felt like I wanted to, especially Ferguson to experience this as well. He's kind of like someone who I spearhead Enjoy with. And I thought it was just really important to make sure that I facilitate or try to get as many of our guys out there as possible. I think it's one of those things. It's like, well, if I can take you there once, and if it's a really great time, then it's like, sweet, you have that for the rest of your life. And then maybe it leads to something else. But it's like making sure they get that one opportunity to check that box. So hopefully, something transpires from that. And hopefully it did. 360 miles, any way you look at it and chop it up, is a massive, is quite the experience on so many levels. It's
Yes.
so hard to
It's pretty ridiculous, right?
yeah, it's really hard
Yeah.
to put into one thing, But yeah,
Yeah.
man, incredible town to you go to Emporia and to wherever you're from. We're from Sacramento. I'm from Michigan, and it gave me some Michigan vibes for sure. But you just see this little town come to life. I mean, all within a few hours. I mean, even when we got in, it was still like, it wasn't, not everyone had rolled in yet. But I mean, by the time, Friday came around, it was just, the city was like It was bananas.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't get in until, uh, I didn't even get to Emporia until Thursday. And so it was pretty much all set up when I got in there, but yeah, it was cool, for sure. The way that all the different things that they had there, the expo, I was surprised at how large the expo was. It's like a mini
Yeah, it's
sea
not
otter
sea
almost,
otter. Yeah,
right?
it's not
Yeah.
exactly. It's not
Yeah.
sea otter, but it's pretty impressive and it's
Yeah.
well done and yeah, just a lot of energy going in and throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. The thing that kind of that I found kind of nuts was like, I mean, obviously, people live out in the country, but like you're riding on these gravel roads for like, 40 miles, and then all of a sudden you come up on somebody's house. It's like,
What about coming up on their dog?
oh yeah, yeah, there was some of that too.
I told you.
But it's like these people just live out here in the sticks, like they got to drive 40 miles on a gravel road to get anywhere,
Yeah,
or
they
get back to town or whatever, and the the other thing I thought was cool is like some people had like an easy up set up, like they had drinks and everything for us, and they weren't even part of the event. They were just
yeah.
doing it just because they were just trying to be cool and help us out, and
Thank
uh,
goodness they were out there though, because
yeah.
man,
Yeah.
360 miles and there wasn't that much support.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's the whole spirit of the thing, right? Is it's like, especially
Yeah.
the XL, it's this
One thing,
unsupported.
yeah, one thing that before I forget is we had the camera crew out there, Jesse and Steve, filming something for us for my brain disease. And they were at one of the stops. It had to be, I think it was just at like the 100-mile mark. And they were outside this guy's house. And he said that he couldn't get over it. He's like, this guy just started pouring us whiskey, and we just started, and they just started having shots of whiskey with this stranger while they're waiting for us to come by. And he's like, he really
Uh,
couldn't say no to the guy. We're in his front lawn basically. And they
well,
came out and they had their phones out, and it's like, we passed by out of all of 8-10 seconds, and they're just having shots of whiskey.
yeah, the hospitality was definitely in full effect. Towards the end, I ran into some guy who's like on a quad with his family, and he had a little trailer with a cooler, and he had Cokes, Sprites, bottled water, and he was just driving around, just hooking people up, and just as happy as could be,
Yeah.
just like, oh man, you guys. And then I said, how much more of this climbing? Because I had a situation where I couldn't stand up, and the guy's
Yeah.
he's all, oh man, it's only like you. I mean, you're almost done. This is a home stretch, baby. You got like 7 miles of. There's just 7 miles of climbing probably, but then you're gonna hang a right, and then you're gonna get down, and then there's one other steep, super gnarly one, and then he was just telling me how hard it was, but he was making it sound like I go, "Are you in sales, dude?" He's like, he's like, well, yeah. As a matter of fact, I go, yeah, because you're selling it too hard, man. I said, I'm diet out here. I'm ready for a descent. And he's just
How
like,
how wild was getting back on the course with the rest of the riders
oh
at,
yeah,
at the end? I
yeah,
remember that's always what stood out to me too,
yeah,
is when you get back on course with the rest of the 5,000 participants or whatever it is.
yeah,
You meet up with the 25-mile people, the 50-mile people, the 100-mile people, and the 200-mile people. And
yeah,
it's just an ant field out there.
right. Yeah, and you're like dealing with something completely
They're
different. I mean, they're
Yeah,
dealing with their own trauma,
yeah,
but
and
you're just like, you
we
haven't
look like,
slept. Yeah.
we haven't. I mean, I look like I just, went potty all over myself. And these guys, their kits are so clean, and we just look like we've been through war. And in many ways, we kind of have.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Did you
yeah.
guys go down at all? I went down probably 4 times. Twice in a puddle.
Mm. Three
Uh,
times.
three times.
You went down
It
three
was,
times, Jeremy?
Three times.
no, no, I didn't go down. I watched Vince go down 3 times though.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mud ruts were vicious. Those were
Yeah.
what seemed to be the issue was those mud ruts.
Yeah. Yeah, but you didn't get bit by any of them, huh? You just stayed upright the whole time.
Some people
Yeah.
know what they're doing out there.
This is completely on brand with Ferguson. Yeah. Okay. So how about you, Scotty?
No, no problems.
No problems.
I only did 100
Damn.
miles, so there's less chance for problems.
Okay. Was there less? Well, I mean, I guess you probably don't know. Um, but I guess my understanding is with the XL, you do all of it basically, is what I was told. Because we had Dan Hughes on the podcast before, and Dan's the only four-time winner of the Unbound. But he, is in the early stages of the event. But the guy knows the stuff, and he did it on a tandem. He's done the XL twice. The guy's done a shit ton of miles out there, and he was saying that I guess the 200 goes north sometimes and the 200 goes south sometimes. Just depends on the year. And then he says, but with the XL, he says you're doing north and south. So I guess we probably did all or most of the 100.
Of course.
But yeah, there was just like it seemed like there were just two stretches of really intense mud, two areas or zones, maybe spanning maybe 10 miles each or something. But
I can tell you that the 100 course missed all of the more detailed or like harder single track stuff that the 200 had. It kind of
okay.
went like in between property lines and weird stuff like that, which made it, I guess, like faster in that regard. But I imagine the 350 sees like everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So you did
All
a
the minimum.
200 last year and then the 100 this year. What was the mindset in that choice?
Well, basically, opening a restaurant doesn't allow for a lot of time to train. So, like, I'm not gonna foolishly go out and do a 360-mile ride, even though, like, if Jeremy and Vince were like, "You have to do it," I'd probably do it. But for the most part,
All
like
right.
finishing at like midnight. Like, I remember the first year, Vince was there at the finish line, and we had like a burrito from a gas station afterwards, right? And it's like, okay, and then you go home, you go to sleep, and then you wake up and you pack and you leave, and like you don't get to experience the finish line as you normally would. And so by doing the 100, I mean, it just checked all the boxes off to be able to see the actual event, other people celebrating, their finishment, their accomplishment, and it's a vibe, and it's cool to see that in that area, and then you get to hang out with everybody, in a social setting, which is half the reason you go to, not just the physical part, but and then yeah, you get to see Jeremy, Bent, Nick Spano. I didn't get to see you. You disappeared. You ghosted everybody and just gone.
Dude,
But you know,
my
I know
whole
you were
body
like,
was numb.
yeah, you were like in, yeah, I think you were Osage City or whatever that you were
Yeah.
saying. So yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
get having to drive after that would be absolutely miserable. You probably wouldn't want to hang out, but just the whole carnival aspect to the main street and the celebratory nature, like it's fun, and you get to kind of recoup in a better way. But that's really the mindset, was just to be able to experience that aspect that was not able to experience the year before.
Yeah. All right. So Jeremy and Vince, now for next year, you need to tell Scotty he doesn't have a choice, and then he's going to be forced to do it because he just.
Starting now. Starting now. Put him on the
Yeah.
hook.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
So
no, I'm a
something.
big advocate for all our guys pushing themselves to do something a little bit bigger, but I'm also like, I keep tabs on these guys all year. So if they're
Yeah.
not putting in the work, it's not something I want to see. Not that Scotty wouldn't do it. It's just that it's a massive commitment. And
Yeah.
the main thing that I want from all of our guys is to commit to not just Unbound, but like to events. So yeah, I'm going to continue to force that approach on people. But I also, it's like, if you tell me you're going to do something, I'd like to see you train, see you on
Yeah.
your bike,
Yeah.
and I watch, I see everything.
Yeah. Well, Scotty's had a lot on his plate lately. He's sitting in his new restaurant there.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Gummy Burger's going to open in a couple weeks, and I can't wait to check that out. But yeah, one of the I did actually, I did stick around afterwards. I had a cheeseburger off one of those trucks, and then Giant had like this. They had part of the Gravel Hall of Fame building. They leased out part of that, and they had one of our guys in there doing like beats and whatnot. And as soon as that music started, it was like, yeah, I got to get out of here. But I think I was awake for like 40 hours. Like,
Sounds
that's
right.
that's just crazy. And one of my biggest fears going into it was if I'd be able to stay awake. That's what I thought
Yeah.
I was going to be my biggest challenge, but I didn't have that problem at all.
I
I was
don't think you
Yeah.
did
surprised.
either.
Yeah,
I,
Seems like you're
I
so engaged the whole time that it's hard to really
right.
lose focus. Otherwise, you get bit right away with a crash or something. Like you just have to stay so focused the whole time. Like a
Yeah,
24-hour attention contest, basically.
it really is. The thing, so I think I told you guys this, but what happened to me, I hurt my knee before, and I got it drained, and then I got a cortisone shot on Tuesday, and they basically got cleared to go do it, and then I hop on a plane on Wednesday, and knee felt great, and but man, like 10 miles in, we were in like a group of like 8 of us, and I was like in number two, and there was like some across the trail there was like a some kind of drainage thing, and the guy in front of me, he didn't call out or anything. He just slammed into it, and so I slammed into it. I think all of us probably slammed into it because it didn't get called out, and I wasn't like in a position to stabilize my knee, and my knee just went like did some weird thing, and after that I couldn't stand and pedal, and like at mile 40 I remember like I was having a full on pity party for myself. I was just in my head just this is so ridiculous. This is only 40 miles in, and already like my whole undercarriage was like numb, and from just sitting and climbing all the time. I stand so much just in general. Like if I'm climbing, I'm probably, I'm probably spend more time out of the saddle than I do in the saddle. Um, and so it was just really tough. But I just remember thinking, well, you wanted to challenge yourself, so here you go. This is
yeah.
another level of, but man, my lower back is still sore to this day, and my nether regions are still numb, and I actually got comfort in. I was telling Jeremy before we started here. I was reading I was just looking at his Strava, and he's riding every day ever since, and it's like I haven't touched the bike, and but one of his comments was. My fingers are still numb or something
Yeah.
from Vince. And that made me feel better because these fingers are numb, you know?
Yeah.
So, are your fingers, Jeremy, your fingers are still numb. Vince, are you still numb at all?
Well, back to your first thing when you said 40 miles in, you said you're like, I don't know what I'm doing out here. It's a
Yeah.
bit early for that, but like I think we all have that, that happens. And not even just like once. I mean, like probably 5 times where you're just like, what the fuck am I doing out here? And yeah, I mean, it's you just experience a lot on a day like that where you're
Yeah.
questioning a lot. And I think that's kind of what I like the most, or not the
Hmm.
most, but like that's something I love these kind of real world problems, and you like have to find a way through it, whether it's just put your head down, give it time, or just say fuck it, you know what I mean? Like that's just like
Yeah.
the beauty of it. It's like you're already out here, man. Just fucking keep going
Yeah.
forward.
It's the
Keep going
simplicity
forward.
of right? It's the simplicity of it. It's just like you
Yeah,
just have to figure it out,
yeah.
you know?
Figure it out. And it's yeah, I just wanted to touch on that because like I think we all experience that, like, what the fuck am I doing? Especially when something starts to go a little haywire, and then you look down and you're like, fuck, I still got 300 miles to go.
Right. Right.
But in terms of stuff for me, my biggest complaint I think was like and I don't think I had it last year or just ever in general, but I had like my hands were just in general and I have pretty bad like arthritis and stuff from punching stuff for a long time. Um but like I had a hard time just like having the flexion in the wrist with like being on the hoods or the bars, and like my hands like couldn't even touch the bar at times. I had to like really stretch them out. I wouldn't say they went numb. They were just a massive amount of pain. Like it was just hard holding on to my bars. And I noticed a little bit like I was fatiguing in the upper body. So when we would go back down, I had to like over engage on some of these things, like descending, and I was like really holding on, and I was like, fuck, this doesn't feel good. But yeah, that's about it. My fingers didn't go numb. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure how that works. If it's just one finger for y'all, that seems I don't know what that means.
Ulnar nerve.
Yeah.
Yeah, ulnar nerve, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the ring finger and the pinky. Yeah. How about you,
Yeah.
Scotty? Did you experience any numbness in the hands? Because on
Uh,
the at least
no,
we can run aero bars on the XL, on the 100 and the 200. You don't. That's not an option.
no, calluses on the palms and stuff like that. I didn't wear gloves, which I mean seems kind of foolish, but at the same time, I think you want the maximum amount of grip on your bars on that kind of terrain, especially on the downhills when you're sending it. And um, yeah, no real like discomfort until the cramping started, and then it's just discomfort beyond that. But when you get to that moment where you're in any kind of endurance event and you have that moment of this hurts, or this is going to be a long day of this or whatever, that's just the first point that you recognize you have that adversity that you're going to have to overcome mentally. And that, I think, is just kind of the fun part. And you'll have many of those as you go, and I'm sure the 350 or the 360, as it is, these guys probably experience that more than a few times. As soon as oh, my left hip starts hurting a little bit. Okay, well, maybe that'll go away in 20 miles or something like that. But you start thinking of it like, okay, I got to get past this. I got to push through it. How do I push through it? I just keep going. I keep pedaling. And that mentality of just keep going, keep going, keep going. That just takes over, and
Yeah.
that's actually a fun part, I think, in my mind.
Yeah, I got something that was really working there for a while where I would say for the first 200 miles, which sounds crazy when you say it, but I could sit and spin on the climbs, and then on the descents, I would stand up and then sit on the bento box and then stretch my back and
Yeah,
just
we did a
arch my
lot of that.
back up, And it's like, but then everybody's passing me on the descents, which is just like, I just worked really hard on the climb, and then now I'm just letting everybody go by me, but I had to because it was the only thing that would give me relief on the lower back. But after the 200-mile stop, like we stopped for an hour. We got in at 4:59 at the donut shop, and the guy was opening at 5 a.m. So we got donuts, and then
What?
but we wanted pizza. I wanted pizza. I had so much sugar, so I said, "Hey man, is there any?" And then down the road was like this stop and go, and they had these little pizzas. But so I was there for an hour between the donut shop and the gas station. We had like a group. There was about 8 of us together, and everybody just dilly dallying, Like at one point, I was like sitting on my bike thinking, "Am I just going to go by myself here?" But then I just thought it better to wait for everybody. But yeah, we killed an hour there. But from 200 to 277, there was very little.
Support.
No, for the bento box move I was working,
Uh,
because it was just like this slow, like 1.5 to 3% gradient, and then a punchy, and then a little tiny short one where if I stopped pedaling just for a little bit, I could just kind of get in the position and then arch right back a little bit, and then I'd have to start pedaling again. And that was like there was 77 miles because I remember at the next rest stop I was so smoked I just got off my bike and I just laid on the grass flat on my back, and I was just trying to get some relief, but
did you find that you had a group for most of the time, or were you solo also a lot?
no, I spent a lot. So the group I wanted to stay with, the initial group that I was with, was going good, and I felt like that was kind of like I felt the pace was about right, but I couldn't keep it after I hit that ditch. And then, so yeah, I bounced around groups quite a bit. I spent some solo time, but yeah, I bet you I probably did it maybe 100 miles solo. I mean, yeah. So, uh, yeah, it was an odyssey, man.
How'd
So,
you find the TT bars worked for you
oh, that's what
personally?
I was gonna say. When I saw the footage of you guys crossing the finish line, I was like, because I didn't really see your bikes beforehand. I know I saw you guys on the street a little bit before we started, but it was like I couldn't believe that Jeremy was the only one with aero bars because
So I
I'd
wanted to
never,
touch on that.
yeah, I'd never had aero bars on any bike before, and I mean, I did a TT one time on a bar bike with aero bars, but I've never had. So I'm one of my dealers loaned me bars, and I used them for about 3 months, and I wasn't super comfortable on them. But for XL, I spent most of my time, probably because I couldn't stand and pedal, but I spent most of my time in the aero bars. I would say probably 60 to 70% of my time was in the aero bars. Unless it was super technical or muddy, I was just sitting there. And I think that's partially why my nether regions are still numb.
Yeah, maybe you might have to tilt the saddle or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my reason for not running them was, and it's just hard to say, just because you never know. Like last year, just felt like they were in the way more than they were. Um, than I was using them, and I did use them quite a bit, but it's so hard to tell over 306 or 350 miles last year, like where, like how big of a benefit was, and like in my head, it just didn't seem large enough for what I was, in terms of comfort and positioning. It just wasn't something that I felt was like the game changer for me. And
Hmm.
so that was just my big thing with it this year's, like I just didn't want that stuff in the way, and just that's what it felt like last year. And maybe that's just the trade-off that you get. In I would definitely probably run them next time, or for another future event that's similar like that. But at the time, that was like my main reasoning, was like I just felt like they were in the way, and I didn't notice, like it was hard for me to gauge like how big of a benefit it was.
Yeah.
And so looking back now, I see that, but yeah, that was my main reason for not taking them this year. But from what I can tell, it is a massive game changer in terms of like speed. And when you're trying to, I got a big echo.
Oh.
But when you're trying to, um, we were really trying to monitor our pace. I think that would have been something where we could have squeaked out a little bit more speed. And although I'm happy with like our time, it's like, you almost wonder what it could have been had I saved a little more energy. And, I'll just be honest, I was the biggest, uh, you know, contributor to slowing down the pace on the whole squad. I mean, I had my moments, I think, just like everyone does out there. But the majority, I was definitely on the slower end in terms of like the three of us. Um, so
Well, you kind of had a stacked group you're riding with, you know.
yeah, no, I
I
mean,
mean,
trust me, Nick had his moments. There were times where I didn't know if he was going to catch back on. Me and Fergie had put on a massive like effort, just because it was really just vibing and feeling good.
yeah,
And I remember we got to the aid station. I was like, bro, we just did that for a pretty long time, and I can't see anybody getting back on. But Spano's a resilient, tough son of a gun, and he
yeah,
ended up catching back on, and then he was fine. And it's just like you said, people fade at different times of the day, and then it's like you're working around each other's energy dips.
yeah.
Fergie didn't seem to have as many, if any, compared to us, but maybe that was the aero bars, because that's the main denominator other than our fitness, is that he had aero bars and we did not.
Yeah.
I was queuing off beforehand. I got to ride with Lachlan a little bit and see his setup, and he was heavily, pro aero bar going into this. So I was queuing off the goat, and I figured if he was running them, it was probably the right call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much time did you spend in them?
Like you said, probably upwards of 60, 70%. Any time that I wasn't, yeah, in technical riding, I was in them because it gave my hands a break, it gave my upper back a break.
Right.
Just that change of position was, I felt like, was crucial. And then a perk was, it picked the speed up a little bit. So yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah. It seems like it's like if as soon as you go in there, it's like 2 miles an hour, just with no change in effort or anything. You go
Yeah,
from
it's
the
a free.
hoods, it's like 2 miles an hour.
Well,
Yeah.
especially coming back in the headwind
Yeah.
on the end of our day in the last like 50 miles, just being able to tuck the head down and just kind of, it was brutal effort into that headwind to finish. I was just looking down, counting my cadence, trying to stay
Yeah.
little.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I had some experience with, I've done some Everestings, and I remember in doing the Everestings, the thing that's most sore is my hands. So I was
Hmm.
thinking like, okay, because I like to stand when I climb.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about that going into it and thinking this is going to be at least 24 hours. Um, and I need to have another hand position just to
Yeah.
give my hands relief. But
Yeah.
even with the arrow bars, still numb.
Still. Yeah. I
So
don't know.
yeah.
Maybe next year I'd run like some kind of gloves with like a gel padding or just something a little bit more.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I could see that for sure. Yeah. All right. So 2 years now for you, Vince, on the XL. Jeremy, you clicked off your first
That's
one.
one.
Yep. And Scotty's going to be the first guy to do all of them.
There
It
we go.
sounds like. So
Dude, that'd
yeah.
be sick.
So is the plan next year we're going again? Is that the deal?
Bringing back
Um,
twice as many people.
yeah, it depends. I mean, I'm definitely interested in it. But we just got to see how it unfolds and stuff. I'd really like to my goal's always been to just get faster and faster. And I say it every time, but I want to get to the finish line without feeling like I left something out there. And so far, in kind of a lot of my bigger events, my biggest complaint is a part of me falls apart, and I'm really trying to just figure out why I unravel so much. And it's like I'm tired of feeling like I'm not figuring out the gut and having to crawl my way back. Like I'm pretty confident that I can, crawl to any finish line, but it's like when am I going to get to a place where it's like I'm really happy with that effort. The feeling went great. I stay high. My energy, like wherever I place is fine, but if I can never finish something where I felt like that was a good reflection of like not blowing myself up and finishing the whole thing where I feel somewhat intact, and that's my big yeah, my largest frustration is always just like my body doesn't respond or it's not cooperating with me um with what I'm familiar with. And it's like you 1 second it does, and I'm like, thank God that's over. And then a couple hours goes by, and then boom, I'm right back in the hole, and I'm just like, what the fuck, man? Like, so just
Yeah.
trying to figure that out is it really is something I'm trying to knuckle down. Like that's what I want to figure out is how to just maintain a solid energy, you know, uh, the same effort. Like for the longest time, we were holding, we got the first aid station at like a 21 mile per hour average. And I was like, man, we are moving. We're not expending too much energy. Um, we were doing a lot of work for the women, which was really cool. We were helping them move up in the field, which was really cool to just be a part of,
Yeah.
just to see them out there really getting after it. And um, yeah, just not knowing where like these pitfalls of energy go. So that's what I'll always be continuing to try to work on. That and just always get skinnier. I could tell that my weight's definitely something that holds me back in terms of how much weight I lug around compared to my competitors, which requires more fuel. Like I get that. Yeah. So I think the goal is to kind of keep coming back, or you know, and bringing as many people with us. Like that's the other part. I'd like as many people to start trying to take on something that might feel a little too big for them, but like that's the point, put themselves out there and check a box that might seem impossible or they didn't think they would ever do. Um, and then hopefully when you give someone or you do an experience like that, it turns into something for more, and then they take it upon themselves to start doing those things more often for themselves.
Yeah. Well, I know like when we had you on last year after you had done it, I was giving you shit. I said, you can race 100 miles, you can race 200 miles. Why on earth would you race 350 miles?
Yeah.
And you said, "Oh, I wanted to enter an event where I wasn't sure if I could finish."
Yeah.
And that statement that like really resonated with me. And then, a year later, then I end up going doing it.
Yeah. I think,
So,
I think,
so yeah.
something stays true with that. And that's kind of what I like about cycling in general, but it's just like, 100 miles, it's like we've all done 100 miles multiple times.
Hmm.
200 miles, it's like we've gotten really close, or we have done those, or we've squeaked out a bit. It's like I know, you know, I can squeak out 100 or 200 miles, but it's like when you want to take on something where it's like you have to ask yourself, when you literally have to stop and be like, I actually don't know if I could do that. Um, that's exciting. That's something that really gets me going. It's like now you've entered a contract with yourself where it's like, can you cash it? Can you show up? You're like, you got a motivator now leading up to it. And it's like, you got something that you've never done before and you got to get it done. And so you're trying to put together all the pieces to fulfill that contract. And, yeah, I think, man, I love that, and I want as many as my friends to experience that, and hopefully we can inspire other people to do something similar, because there's just so much reward that you get out of that. It's bigger than just the event itself or whatever. I mean, this is something that you'll take with you for the rest of your life. You'll think about this forever. This is
Yeah.
something that nobody can take from you now. It's at the end of the day, like nobody's going to be able to take that from you, or that experience from you, or that check mark, that milestone. And that's a really cool thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about nutrition. So, I've, you know, I'm like the broke ass bike guy right now. So, for a lot of years, my career, I made a really nice living. These last few years, it's been really tough. And so I've had to and nutrition's expensive. And I've really had to, especially with the amount of riding that I do. So I've really had to kind of curtail a lot of the stuff that I historically used because it's so expensive. And I've been doing these Nature's Bakery Fig Newtons.
Yeah,
So you
that's
can
what I
get,
wrote on all last year. It's so funny you said that.
okay. Is
That's
that,
all I used. My
I,
whole bag was just full of the same bar. Like
I,
I'm not kidding, like 50 of them.
yeah, I think it's like the cheapest shit there is,
Yeah,
as far
and
as like
they're
something
good
that could
food.
qualify as nutrition. And
Yeah.
then I did some Formula 369. I did, when I started, I had my Camelback. I had uh, 120 uh, grams of carbs in the Camelback, and then I had 60 grams of carbs in both the bottles. That's how I started, and then from then it was water and Cokes. Um, so, uh, how about with you guys? Let's start with Scotty. What did you use in your 100 miler?
I had 4 Never Second caffeine gels, 4 Cliff Block caffeinated gels, which I was worried about just caffeine in general. But and then I had 1 Payday candy bar. And I actually, so the good thing about being at this event with Vince is that he lays all of his stuff out on the table at the house, and he had his 369 formula bag. So I took 2 scoops. Sorry, Vinny.
Yeah, it's all
I
good.
put that in my bottles. And then just regular water in the hydration pack just to kind of flush everything out. I don't know. I'm kind of weirded out about having so much, maltodextrin and chemicals, and I'm probably already like onset diabetes. So, an event like that will push you over towards the edge. So I like to try and have regular water just to do that. But I think I had one Coke when I met. Actually, I met Jeremy, Vince, and Nick at like their mile 320 something ish, my 75 ish, and I had a mini Coke there. And that was
Okay.
just refreshing.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot. I did have two caffeinated click blocks. Whoa. I don't know, got a weird echo here. But uh I forgot about those. And I don't do caffeine at all in general. So the fact that I had these caffeinated blocks and I had the Cokes on the ride, that was something new basically being introduced into my system. But I felt like I needed to have the caffeine just in case I got sleepy. And in the end, I just needed it just in general. Just, I don't know. I was just eating everything in sight. All right, Jeremy, how about you? What do you have?
I hear you on the cost of what everything is these days, and usually like 90% of my riding, I keep it pretty budget friendly as far as I'm just pouring sugar into my bottles and keep the cost low that way. But on the race day, I definitely splurged for like the name brand products. And like
Okay.
Scott said, we just had a table full of different gels and goos, and then I had got some of my own. And so I had a bunch of different gels from all types of companies, mostly just to keep like the flavor kind of changing throughout the day. But I probably had like 30 gels in my pack, and then 6 liters of water on the vest, and then sodium pills that I was taking, every hour or two. Caffeine pills, kind of every 2 hours or so, just to keep that topped off. And then the gas stations was mostly just liquid refills, a Coke, but really not grabbing much at the gas stations and really just kind of relied on the race fuel, which, got pretty hard going into day two when it's, that consistency gets old really quick.
Hmm.
Uh, but I did find that anytime I did eat it, kind of a little bit of force feeding, I could get good energy return. So I just kind of kept at it. And I felt like my energy stayed pretty consistent, which I was shocked by.
Yeah. How about you, Vinny? What?
So when I've had quite a bit of experience with caffeine. So like earlier in my career and just as an athlete, my whole career. Um, One thing that I've always known is like you can really overdo it if your plan is to do more or later in the day. So I knew I wanted to have caffeine, but I made sure that like I had it, dosed um, pretty, fairly similar throughout the whole ride. One thing, you can take too much caffeine and kind of, in my opinion, like ruin those receptors, and you won't get the same effect, later in the day when you're really trying to rely on it. And I kind of like stopped taking caffeine like that whole week leading up into it. Maybe a cup of coffee, but like really dialed it down so I could really expend. Um, really rely on it. And that's the other thing too is you could also get a pretty big crash. It might be difficult to do if like just because your heart rate's so elevated, you might not necessarily experience it. But I've felt it in the past before where I maybe took too much caffeine to start, and you'll feel really good in that start. You will push through a lot of things. Your sense of fatigue goes way down, which is one of the great things about caffeine. But um, I was trying to do about 50 milligrams every like 4 hours, roughly. If I had a big dip in energy at like 2 o'clock, I remember I just did like 100 milligrams. And I was definitely going to overdo it that day. I might have had more than 500 to 600 that whole day. But again, it's like I made sure, that when I was going to be able to take it, I made sure it was going to hit, by coming off caffeine basically the whole week leading up to it. And, as far as fuel, yeah, I relied heavily on the Formula 369. Super affordable, a 10-pound bag of Formula 369. 10 pounds is like $80, and I don't know, like that's a lot of weeks of training. And so I had one large car bottle, not as big as I've done in the past. See, we've talked about it before, but I did a 200-gram bottle to start the race, just because I knew it seemed like it was good. It was actually really fast, but like the start of the race, I knew I wasn't going to have the time to like dig into everything that I needed. And I had plenty of just plain water to help, digest the larger carb intake. So I made sure that it was super concentrated so I would get the carbs that I needed in like a sip. So like the 200 grams is what I started out with for the first, until our first aid station. And then I had about 4 small bags of 90 grams. And 90 grams or 120 grams, right around there. And then, I think it's weird how it kind of pops up
I
like that.
know,
But
right? It's strange.
I think a Pop-Tart, I bought about 3 Pop-Tarts throughout the whole day. I think it was like the only other thing that I bought a bag of chips too, but and I just kind of like crunched the bottom of the bag and just dumped them in my mouth. But yeah, 3 Pop-Tarts, that's always kind of done it for me when I felt like, I've been relying too heavily on fluids and drinks and gels and stuff. Um, to put some substance back in my stomach. It seemed like it helped. If anything, I wish I had more. I was really kind of the nature bar probably would have been what I was looking for towards the end there, because I needed something in my stomach. I felt hungry like almost the whole time. Like I need some substance. Like I could feel my stomach just turning in terms of like it's revved up and it wants to digest something. So, and when I had
Yeah,
nothing left to put in there, I was like, ah, that sucks. I just got all this fucking sugar and gels and Cliff
right.
Blocks basically.
It gets to
But
be too much, that I started with all that Formula 369, but then all the refills after that were just straight water. And then I
yeah,
would occasionally have a Coke. But yeah, your gut can only take so much. And I had this experience when I was doing this beforehand. I did like one big, like 13-hour ride where I rode out Hamilton and then I went through San Jose. I came back through San Jose and I had a headwind the entire way back to Danville. It was insane, very tough, uncomfortable type of day. And then, and I had had so much sugar. Uh, and so I pull into Danville and I was still thinking I was going to go do Diablo because I wanted to just try to put as much in as in one day as possible, just kind of see how I'd respond. And my wife she had called right as I turned into Danville, and she's like, "Where are you?" I'm like, "Yeah, Danville." She's like, "When are you gonna be home?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna go do Diablo." She's like, "What? No, it's 7 o'clock at night. Just scratch Diablo. You're gonna be home at 11 o'clock or something if you do Diablo." I'm like, "Okay," but and my stomach was super upset because of all the sugar that I had taken in. And there's a McDonald's right there, and I had a double cheeseburger. I hadn't eaten at McDonald's in over a decade. Like I don't go to McDonald's, you know what I mean?
yeah.
I don't have, like I said, I haven't been eating red meat for probably,
I don't
five.
know if that's red meat or any. I
That
don't
ain't red
know,
meat.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Whatever that GMO loaded, whatever it is, that thing, I went from doing 18 miles an hour to 24 miles an hour all the way home after I had that burger. And I was just thinking like, man, if I could get some real food on the ride when I'm depleted, I'm going to take advantage of it. It looks like we have Nick. Nick just joined us.
What up, Nick?
Are you
Hey,
there?
howdy. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Welcome,
Yo.
man. Whoa, what are we looking at there?
Got a
Yeah.
different camera here. Oh, it's on my phone camera. How did that happen? 1 second.
Yeah, all right. Well, we'll let
Yeah.
you figure it out a little bit, but yeah, man. The did you guys stop at 277 at that rest stop at that little park and they
The
had the
lemonade
pump?
stand.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Ah, that was epic.
that
That
was
was Spano came back to life. Without that aid station, I don't know what would have happened. But that was the one
there.
that
Yeah.
he took that and he was golden for the rest of the day, which is not the case for me. But that one's
That's
the one that worked for him.
Nice. And
That
me
was
too.
That was my saving moment.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
fresh hand squeezed lemonade and the country vibe there is really.
Yeah, sick aid station, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Did you eat any of that pasta that they had?
Yeah, I didn't, but I saw a kid who actually came to tears. Uh, he literally was crying because it was so
Yeah.
good.
Oh man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had 2 cups of that pasta. You know,
Okay.
they were serving it in those styrofoam cups, like
Yeah.
a drink cup, a tall drink cup. I had 2 cups of it. And after that, it was like, it's crazy to think like you're on the home stretch and you still have 81 miles to go or whatever, you
Yeah.
know? But yeah, that was just like, it completely just shifted the whole, everything in my mind. I had just gone through this terrible 77 miles of no relief. And then after that, it was just hammer time. I don't know. The lemonade was amazing. What you guys probably had plenty of lemonade. When we got there, it was almost gone.
That
Yeah.
was
So, but I was able to get some, and I met this young girl. Her name was Isabella, and she was young. I later learned that she was the youngest. I forget her last name though, darn it. But I later learned that she was the youngest person to ever do the XL.
Wow.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
yeah, and she was so sweet. Like I got there, I got to that station beforehand, and I was talking to the lady who was running it, who was also really super kind, just super friendly and fun. And I just thanked her profusely for the pasta and the lemonade. I just said, this is the best stop of the entire trip, and I really appreciate all that you've done here. And I'm just sitting there, just quietly eating my pasta, and then Isabella comes up, and she comes in and she says almost the exact same thing to the people, you know. And then the lady says, "Oh, well, be sure and tell the people at Lifetime because we would love to do this again and let them know that we're really, that this was a good experience for you." And then she whips out her phone. She's like, "Okay, yeah, definitely. Hey, what's your name?" And she like takes
That's
notes, so
awesome.
she got her name, and then the other people, there was like 3 volunteers that were all right there, and then they all
That's
gave their name.
crazy.
Yeah, she's like, "I'm gonna
She's
tell."
300 miles in and she has the energy to take
Yeah,
notes. I would have
yeah,
been like, I didn't even look at my phone when I'm that deep. I just can't do it. It like takes energy that I'm not willing to spare.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was just really impressed with her. Her just yeah, she was.
No, that's
I mean,
incredible.
obviously, she's an impressive person in general to be that young and be doing something so ridiculous, but
Yeah.
then also to have the wherewithal to do something like that. And I was thinking, I was just sitting there quietly taking it all in, and then I was thinking, oh, that's a good idea. I should have probably offered to do that too, but I didn't.
Speaking of good
No.
personalities, we're at all the aid stations with Lael Wilcox, and we caught her
Oh,
at that aid station as well. And similar kind of vibe as far as just oozing positivity,
uh,
endlessly.
yeah. Do you
So yeah, she was pretty inspiring to watch. Kind of, we kept catching her at every aid station,
Mhm.
and it was really cool to see what her energy was like out there.
Yeah, I really wanted to meet her because I've obviously she's done so much on the bike and like her posts and everything. I mean, she just puts out this really positive, cool vibe for
He
sure, you know.
she was super soft spoken and just smiles. Um, she's
Endlessly.
incredible from what it's just I can't
Yeah.
imagine her ever being upset, and I was upset like at least 30 times. So
Yeah.
yeah, and she
Yeah.
she would drop us on the climbs, and she just kept going forward. Like from what I could tell, it was just like forward. It was like a super steady pace. There was no drop in like super fast, super slow, slow down on this, conserve energy. It was just like straight pace energy. Her form looked the same as it did on the tail end, and just climbing away with like um, no differential in like drops in energy. She was pretty cool, man, and just smiles. And I was trying to be funny, and I think she just laughed because she's nice. I don't even think I was funny. But
All right. Well, hey, since Nick joined us late, I want to get your take on the aero bar thing because I
Yeah,
noticed you didn't run aero bars either.
I did not.
Yeah, and
Um,
so can you talk about that decision?
yeah, so well, I had a little bike fiasco, leading in. So I was even before that, I wasn't gonna run aero bars, probably would want to have longer time testing. Um, so I actually ran 34 centimeter bars,
Hmm.
which measure 28 at the hoods. And I tested those a little bit and found I could do, puppy paws position pretty okay. And actually wasn't too bad. Going back, I probably would run an aero bar setup. This is kind of one of those races. Equipment's a huge thing. Um, and yeah, it's like there's so much tinkering you can do. Um, but yeah, I mean, honestly, it wasn't too bad. There were, times with the hands. And for sure we leaned on Jeremy being in the sticks there. Um,
Yeah.
I yeah, we would have been quite a bit slower, and I am very thankful to have Jeremy tow me through some dark times out there.
we should actually talk. I don't even know why I didn't think of this, but let's talk about your bike. Like
Yeah,
the week of the thing, I think it was like Monday,
yeah.
and I get a text from Spano. I don't even respond because I don't know how to respond. I just screenshot it and I send it to Fergie. And Spano goes, "My bottom bracket's fucked. Like we're gonna try and put some glue on it, but I don't think it's
Oh,
gonna make it through
oh
Unbound
no.
XL." And I didn't know what to say. I was like, "Bro, I fly out today. Like I don't know."
Yeah.
um, so
What?
we're scrambling to find something. He's like, that Revolt's sick. Like, I want to run that. And then we like, I'm on all extra small bikes, as you know, Mike. And so we look at that Revolt, and I'm not kidding you. The seat post was like 2 feet tall.
I'm five
And
nine. So
yeah, and Spano's like, dude, that's sick. And I'm just like, bro, it's not gonna work. And he's like, I think it's gonna work. And so I entertained whatever he wanted to. But then we had the TCX, which that's already been through an XL. And then all the bikes are slammed. So like we couldn't put any spacers in there for them. And we're scrambling to find a stem and just, all these things to make it work. And then like I mean, he probably rode the bike 3 times, if that,
yeah, not even.
before.
I mean,
Yeah,
I did one like hour 20 ride just to test it. Matt got it built up at AE service course super
record time.
like
Yeah.
crazy fast.
Props to Matt.
Couldn't
Yeah.
find a 130 stem in time, which honestly the geometry wasn't too far off my road bike. Um, and I rode it, and with a positive stem felt kind of weird handling, but yeah, did an hour. It was like, I think this will work. We'll find
It's basically is like, this is gonna have to work. And it's like,
yeah,
it's one of those mindsets where you're just like, instead of telling yourself, like, I don't know if this is gonna work, it's like, no, I think this can work. Like, goes a long, long
oh yeah,
ways.
yeah,
And that was just always the thing. Like, well, this is what we got. And I think this is gonna work.
Yeah.
And it had to. I mean, I wish you could have seen this chaotic, like we just like threw it together. Um, Pretty amazing thing to do.
yeah.
you
And,
know.
and realistically, I mean, the bike worked out really, really good. I have zero back pain or anything. I did have a little knee issue, but I think that honestly would have popped up no matter what bike. It was just yeah, just so deep into the ride. But yeah, thank you, Vinny, for lending me the bike, which I still have and need a full second cleaning on. But yeah, I mean, it worked out really well. So um, thankfully was able to come out, and yeah, I would have been super gutted if I couldn't have figured out how to
It's
fix it.
pretty crazy because a lot of people have mechanicals and they have to quit. because of the mud or what have you. And I don't know if you guys know the chef. I'm sure Scotty does, but or I shouldn't say I'm sure. I just assume Scotty would. But Chris Constantino, do you know him?
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so he had to abandon. He had a mechanical this year. I know he finished last year, and this year he abandoned due to that mechanical. So the fact that you slam this bike together, get an hour ride on it, and then you and then you go out and slay it like you did. I mean, uh, that's a lot of good fortune. You know,
Yeah.
on
Yeah, the bike I had, the bottom bracket area had worn to where I had cups sitting 4 millimeters inside and it was coming unthreaded. So the only solution would be to like do red Loctite. And
yeah,
you know,
right.
that race is not, I was like, this is not gonna happen. So the frame is toasted. And yeah, you know, I trusted I double checked some of the bolts, but yeah, I mean it's just yeah, trust that the bike was put together
Yeah.
correctly. And yeah, thankfully we also had a Cody out there, Kaiser to
Yeah, Cody Kaiser.
our
Cody Kaiser came in and like re-looked at all of our bikes. I mean, Fergie switched to chainring last minute. Uh, just hearing like seeing like what Fergie was about to like do with like the slack that was in his chain and like the links and the not centering it stuff. So yeah, he kind of came through large on that end. I tried to switch some things, but unfortunately we didn't have all the pieces, and I felt like I was overgeared or undergeared or whatever one undergeared I think would be the right word for it. But and we also switched tires like 8 times.
Oh wow.
yeah, we
Like
got
I'm not kidding. We switched tires so many times.
Tell them about your pre-ride that was just like
oh,
complete
yeah.
mud.
Yeah. Well, we went out for a pre-ride and we found some mud in the this older lady. Like we get to this section of this like where it comes into like two single tracks and it's like low maintenance road or something like that. And we're just kind of like, hot rodding it past this old lady's house and she's like out there like waving. And we don't even get like 5 seconds past her. We get into like the deepest part of the muds and we literally just the mud that you can't pedal through. I mean, I had clogs on my feet were like bricks. That's how like thick this mud was. And
Yeah.
so she's like still staring at us and she's like, do you guys want a hose? And I don't even know how we would have gotten back without her letting us rinse our bikes. And she was just like, she's like, where are you boys from? We're like, California. And she's just like, yeah.
Yeah.
She's like,
So we all
but
change our tires based off that one moment. And
yeah.
looking back on it, we pretty much had no tire issues, minus like a freak pinch flat. And I'd say she may have saved our race.
Yeah. So what tires
Possibly.
did you guys end up what tires did you end up running?
So I originally, you know, the TCX had a 45 clearance. So I was running the new Schwalbe G1R that
Okay.
they designed. But then, you know, we were at the expo. Um, we were all kind of like, oh no, what's, you know, clearance, definitely kind of freaking out. And then went down a whole tire tinkering panic mode. So yeah, all of us bought new tires.
No, it didn't even.
Yeah.
I looked at Fergie and I was like, hey, should we get new tires or what are we doing? And he goes, nah, man, we'll be fine. And then Steve, one of the producers, was like, I don't know, man, just putting in our ear. So I'm
Yeah.
like freaking out. I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to buy some extra tires. I disappear for 2 seconds. I look back. Fergie bought tires. Spano talk tires. I'm like, Ferg, you just told me you were buying new tires. What the fuck? You were like complete, like now the more that you freak out, I'm freaking out even more now. And yeah.
Well, we
So
were on the same setup, so I mean, if
yeah.
like if one of us goes down, we're all going down. So we can't have one of us on different clearance.
Right.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
So
I couldn't
what was
afford
it that you ended up with though? Did you guys end up all running the same tire or were you
No,
running
we all
different tires?
way different stuff.
Oh,
I
okay.
swapped the rear. I had a 45 G1R front and rear. I threw a Conti Terra Speed 40 mil. I'm super familiar with that tire. And so I was like, I know this tire. I'm throwing it on the rear, and it gave me some more clearance. And then Ferg grabbed some Vittorias.
Ooh.
Um, and then yeah, what did you get, Vince?
I got the IRCs. They I've heard good things, and I don't know. That's what I went with.
Yeah, but you went no flats, so
No flats. It was
uh,
good
Yeah.
traction from what I could tell. It seemed like a fast enough tire. I ran like the slick in the back and then the tread in the front. So
Okay. And
yeah, I
Fergie,
went
you
the
ran
42s.
you went 42s.
I went 42s, but I had a 50 on there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. How about, and Fergie, what were you?
I
You
had
went with,
45 on the front and then a 40 in the back,
were they
and they were pretty much
Terreno?
slicks, Terreno, like the dries,
Yeah.
and they were like the updated. I think they had like updated sidewalls on these ones, a
yeah, the
little bit more puncture protection.
Okay.
T50. It's their new endurance casing. Um, so it was like a brand new redesigned tire from Vittoria.
Well, that's
Um,
good to hear because I was running the 47 Terreno drives and I was having just terrible experience. The tires were bleeding out through the sides. The sealant was, I basically had to inflate them every single day.
Well, yeah, I
And
switched off that tire that
yeah,
day, so
that was the
saving
tire.
grace.
That was
yeah,
the tire you
That
had.
was the tire I had on
Yeah.
before.
yeah.
Yep.
So I ended up switching to the Maxxis Ramblers in a 50.
Okay.
And the Rambler has they use a 60 TPI casing, which is like they have a 120 casing also, which is the lighter, but the 60 is the gnarlier, heavier casing. And I'd heard so many horror stories about, you know, people getting flats or even having to DNF because they cut their tire. And so I just thought, I'm just going to run this big heavy thing. But in some of the mud, it was kind of a problem. How about you, Scotty? What'd you run?
42. What are they? Tracers from Specialized,
Oh, okay.
front and back.
Yep.
No
Yeah.
problems.
No issues. Good. So as a group, we didn't have any issues? Tires?
Fergie flatted.
Just a
Oh, you did.
pinch. It was a
Yeah,
pinch flat, more
that
less of a
was
tire issue than a line choice hitting a rough curb on one of those like drain crossings
Oh, yeah.
There
at
was a
the
sinkhole
end.
right in the middle. There's a sinkhole right in the middle of this drain crossing. So it's like the water runs through the path, and it's like an incline down and an incline out of the the path. And you think that you could just drill it, but like once you come up on it, you can see that there's a huge cutout and like just a drainage right in the middle of the creek. And they smoked it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Damn it.
flatted, yeah. So, but we were able to put holes or plugs right in Fergie's tire relatively quick. I'd say under 5 minutes.
All
Yeah.
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
super quick.
Well, for me, with the experience I had with my knee early on, it kind of changed things for me a little bit. Like, I definitely had this idea of going there that I was just going to race and just go as hard as I could, as long as I could, and where the chips fell. But once this issue with my knee happened, I kind of, and partially because the back was just so sore the whole time. Anytime I'd run up on somebody that was on the side, I'd ask them if they were okay. And, most people would say yes, but like you could kind of look and see, like, they just don't look like they're okay. So I stopped. Like one person, I dyna-plugged the front tire for him and got it going. And then there was these two gals, and they had she had burped her tire real bad, and she had this janky little pump. And yeah, anyway, I stopped and helped them. And so like it kind of got after the incident with my knee, it was like, you know what, this it's I'm still going to try hard and do it the best I can, but it's more of a ride at this point for me than it is a race. And I do wonder though, because of what happened, like if I was able to stand the whole time and on the climbs and everything, I just wonder if I maybe would have overshot myself and ended up, having to try to recover, whereas being forced to sit, it just forces you to go at a certain pace. And I don't know. It'd be interesting to see like next year if I'm healthy and I can do, I could stand. Be interesting to see what the times are like. But
Are you telling me that you're coming back next year?
I heard it.
yeah, I definitely, yeah, I'm in. I'm in. That's so crazy. It's such a crazy thing, and like I said, the event and the people and everything, the whole thing was just like such a great experience. I feel like, and also, pushing yourself into those areas of you have to overcome. Uh, that's the kind of shit that a lot of cyclists. I mean, that's what I love that kind of stuff. So um, I think I think that's a big part of everybody that gets into the endurance side of the sport. Um, you know, um, yeah, and so I want to clarify now, Nick. Were you the guy that was like that went crazy at Death Ride? Is
Yeah.
that yeah,
Yeah.
okay. That
Yeah.
was that was unbelievable. So what was your time? What did your time end up being at Death Ride?
I think it's 5:40. Or yeah, I believe so. I'm 20 minutes. I took 20 minutes off my time from the previous year. And I'm 20 minutes off Stetna's FKT time. So I'd
Yeah.
have to double check, but I think I can take some more time off. It's getting tough to
Uh,
split, more. Um, honestly, I think yeah, with a little bottle hand up, if I didn't have to carry bottles or anything and had all full hand ups, um, possibly this year and next year, I think there's actually is a chance to take that FKT. Um,
mhm.
we'll see. But it's Stetna's no joke for
Yeah.
climbing and setting that up. But yeah, it's my home roads. Like I live out in Tahoe, Christmas Valley, so I train out there. I know those climbs like the back of my hand. I know exactly every switchback, every turn, where to how to pace myself. So I can really like ring out that course kind of perfectly. But
Hmm.
yeah, so that's one of my favorite areas of all time.
Yeah, well, it showed. I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of ridiculous. Okay, so I have a question for because everybody here, we've all done the Death Ride, and the Death Ride is obviously much shorter. You're going harder in general than you do during something like the XL. What do you? I guess the question is, do you feel like is it harder to go hard for 6 hours in your case, Nick, or in my case, I think it was 7:30 or something, or is it harder to sustain that effort for 24 hours? That's not at that same level of intensity, but the
Um,
duration is such.
for me, I learned a lot. Right. For me, it's the 24-hour thing is really difficult. I also was just going super, super hard in the beginning of the XL. Just knowing we'd regroup and I had a lot of confidence going in. But then I had a real reality check from mile 220 to yeah, 280 till that like lemonade stop.
Yeah.
Um, that was harder. Just mentally, it was more just my body, yeah, no matter how I was feeling, power just wasn't coming out. And it really showed you do need to like conserve, or you have to have crazy depth. And
Hmm.
just, yeah, I didn't have the ideal in my world, the ideal training I would have liked coming in, just with life. I didn't have bad training, I wasn't sick or injured, but you got to have some depth if you're going to mess around in the first bit. So
Yeah.
that's harder. For me, like I can go really hard for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, and that's kind of my where I do really well. Yeah, 4 to 8 hours is good for me.
Yeah.
And that's where I excel, and mentally I can stay really, really locked in. It's the past 14 hours. like start to
Yeah,
change.
I think that's probably pretty normal. How about you, Jeremy? Do you find
It's
like the death ride a really hard death ride effort versus the extended? What do you find more challenging?
I would say like in even like the longer gravel races where the 100 miles, they end up being around 5 hours in that 6 hours in that zone. It's those are pretty challenging. Like you can dig, the intensity is just so high that like
Yeah,
in like those like if you just think about the specific moments, the pain, the suffering is at like a much higher level than like the 360, like in any given moment, where the 360 is just a cumulative fatigue that kind of sneaks up on you. Where it's the shorter gravel races, it's you know what you're getting into. You feel your heart rate up. You feel the lactic acid, and it's definitely two different types of suffering.
yeah. I sound like Chewbacca.
Sound good over here.
All right, how about you, Vinny?
Um, it's tough to say. I think they're both unique in their own right, but I definitely had both my last two death rides have been like really, really hard on me. I've both cracked like super hard. And for me, I would say that's like harder just in terms of like the output. Um, in terms of how hard I like hit, like death ride for me is like I've hit the places of like almost where you don't know if you're gonna finish. Um, so yeah, you're right. A little bit more intensity can put you in a little bit of a larger hole, and that's what I've experienced every time I've done the death ride, which is kind of why I like it. Is like I keep coming back to see if I can figure that out. So yeah, I would say it can be equally as challenging as um, in some of these larger races, like I mean, 360 is kind of like hard to stack against anything, to be honest. But like, it definitely, Death Ride will definitely put you in a hole, and then there's no like at least in XL, you're not on a climb that's longer than 5 minutes, whereas
Right.
like you gotta sit in the saddle for like maybe an hour or two on some of these climbs if you're hurting
Yeah.
and you're dehydrated or whatever the case may be. And so I've kind of found that to be the case for me every year. I'll start out super strong and I'm like really pleased with how much better I'm doing, and then out of nowhere I get hit really hard and then turn into a big baby and have to limp my way to the finish line. But
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's interesting the intensity. How about you, Scotty? You did I know you had a tough death ride this year with you ended up with a broken frame, but you did the 200 last year, the 100 this year. Um, what's your takeaway from, did you go harder in the 100? I mean, obviously fitness, plays a huge role in this, but you think the 200, like the pacing of the 200 is a little easier to manage?
I was foolish on both the 100 and the 200. Like to start out of the gate, it's hive mentality. You're with everybody. You're going as hard as everyone is, and you're looking at your heart rate, and you're going, okay, I'm going to pop, and I'm going to pay for this later, and yeah, I'll suffer.
Yeah,
The death ride though is definitely for me. It's harder because the climbs are so long, so there's so much more sustained. As we're like Unbound, like you can go up for 2 seconds and then hit a descent and kind of recover. And I think that's a little bit easier in that regard. So, yeah, I suffer with the death ride with climbing. I suck at climbing and elevation in itself. Like Nick lives up there, so he probably is like, adapted to it. But for me, elevation, I always have a crappy recovery the morning of and things like that. And elevation just messes with me. It makes me super fatigued. And, you're closer to the sun, even though, Unbound is like humidity and God, the sun was brutal this year at Unbound. I'm
yeah,
jealous of the 350 guys that get to ride in the night when it's like cool. I'm sure they love that more than like the daytime stuff. Makes it a little bit harder, but yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the nighttime because it reminded me of something. So I don't know if you guys experience, maybe Jeremy, the only one here with the aero bars, but I was in the aero bars on the white, like not all the gravel's white. This was like smooth white gravel, it's like maybe 3 o'clock in the morning, and I've got my little headlight, and it's just blasting this little white beam, and I'm just in the thing, tucked, and I felt like it was almost like meditative
Hmm.
or like a flow state or something. It was just so like it was hypnotic almost.
Yeah.
And
Especially when we hit that little low-hanging fog like zone.
oh man, that was awesome.
And then my headlamp was just beaming off the fog. And like you said, just you enter a different universe, it feels like. Especially with
Yeah.
us three, we didn't we talked when we needed to, but there was a lot of silence and us just in a three-man pace line rotating, amongst ourselves. And it is definitely a form of meditation. We're just out
Yeah.
there kind of clipping off the miles, not having to say anything to each other, just knowing our goal is moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because like with the situation I was in a lot of different groups, just the way it worked out. Um, and it was funny how like some people are like chatty.
Oh God, I was just gonna say
I'm
that.
just like, dude, shut the fuck up, man. I'm hurting here. I'm not going to tell you where I'm from right now. You know
Oh
what I
Yeah,
my
mean?
God, that's
You
even
know?
funnier.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I'm somebody, I think of myself as a very nice person, right? I'm always going to have a nice thing to say to somebody or I'm happy to have a conversation. I'm easy to talk to. But in that situation, especially considering nobody really, I mean, there were people that were close to me when it happened that knew that, oh shit, this guy's injured now. But most people that I encountered on the course had no idea that I couldn't stand up and pedal. So, I'm dealing with like this, my whole left side is just completely fucked. And I'm in a lot of pain. And and I got a smile. I'm smiling, but like I'm not having a conversation, not while I'm pedaling and I'm hurting this bad. But
oh, where are you from? Minnesota?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Right.
Dude, we were getting some guys where they were trying to just hold on to our wheels. And it wasn't that we were trying to be rude. It was just like we have little bandwidth to give attention to others at
Right.
this point, and it's nighttime. Um, and these guys, they just roll up on us, and they don't know each other. These are these two guys, and they start talking to each other, and I was like, it was just doing my head, and I was like, please to God, don't try to start talking to us, like,
Yeah.
um,
Uh,
and just the verbiage that you get these people from different parts of the world or country, and they just talk different. And he's like, "Where are you from?" He's like, "Pennsylvania." And he's like, "Neato," and it's like they're just talking. What do you do? And whatever. And it's like, no, not today. Like, so we would just like slow down, and they'd get all confused, and until they finally got the hint that, like, hey man, like, we would like to ride by ourselves.
Right.
And maybe we came off rude, but at the end of the day, it's like, look, we could have been rude and just been like, hey, no, because we didn't feel like we wanted to give any free rides, nor did we feel like we wanted to
Yeah.
entertain any conversation that was disruptive to our sleepy time, because it was like 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
And these guys were trying to talk about how many dogs they had, and everything that they do, and I was like,
Well,
no,
I
spirit of
was
gravel.
I was kind of in a different mindset because I was definitely trying to latch on. Like I just found myself on the climbs when I could recover properly, I could catch people on the climbs. So I would catch like I'd be by myself and then I'd catch a group of like 6 or 8, and then I'd get to the top and then I'd have to do that stretch thing I was telling you where I'd sit on my bento box, and then they'd all pass me. And so then I'm working on the climb. I'm working to catch them again, and so I was constantly attaching myself to groups and then losing them on descents for that stretch, for that 200-mile stretch, and
Yeah.
so I was of the different mindset where I wanted to ride with people, but because of the pain I was feeling, I was just like, I just wanted to keep the chit chat to a minimum. There
Yeah, no,
was,
I think we rode with plenty of people. I shouldn't say that we were trying to exclude anyone. It was just like those nighttime hours, they didn't seem like sacred, but they were definitely like felt like personal time. And we just, I personally was not in the mood to just like listen to these guys
Those two, it was just
just so chipper. Like
yeah, that was not.
you would have thought they just started, you know?
yeah,
Yeah,
And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And
yeah,
And then
yeah.
we took a pee break for one moment, and that group we were with just absolutely flew by a turn and totally went the wrong way.
yeah, cut the cord
oh
Yeah.
wow,
We
right
seem to
after the pretty sizable water crossing. Um, and yeah, I don't know, they just completely cut the course, and then it was like, all right, bye.
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah,
Which actually was kind of a cool, yeah, talking about that, there was so much support out on the course of just random people.
I
Yeah, it
know,
must have been like 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. and you
yeah,
Yeah,
go across this
man.
creek crossing and they're in like
Yeah,
lawn chairs and beers and you're like, yeah, I get it, brother. It's like, what the fuck?
yeah.
It's so laid
So
out.
yeah.
just nothing better to do, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of cool to,
I
get
loved it.
some cheers out there and from just random people. Um,
Right,
really the whole town, and yeah, the vibe was super welcoming.
yeah,
Cool to see just this like full takeover of Emporia, like even the expo and everything down there. The whole vibe was actually way. I knew it was big, I knew it was cool, but yeah, it actually like exceeded my expectations.
yeah,
It's a rad event, honestly.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
for bikes, full on.
yeah.
Yeah, it became like a festival in a way.
Did you guys happen to see that number 22 booth? They
Yeah,
Oh,
I think I
had a,
saw it with a titanium bike.
I
they
wish I
had
did because I
yeah,
love those.
3D printed aero tie bike.
Yeah.
It's a dream. That's a dream bike of mine. Yeah, they're cool.
Unbelievable.
They're super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. You just don't see titanium like that,
That
They're doing
looks that cool.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I
not
talked to
cheap.
the one of the owners there for about 30 minutes, and he's giving me the whole lowdown. But yeah, it's pretty phenomenal what they're doing. Um, so that was like something that really stood out. The expo was super cool. There were a lot of innovative things there, but the number 22 to me, that was like the big takeaway was wow, that's cool. Yeah. All right. Well, listen, guys. I mean, we probably wrap it up here. I know we all have lives we have to get back to. But man, what, Vinny, thank you. You're part of it. I posted something the other day. I first learned about it in Dirt Rag from Yuri wrote an article in Dirt Rag in 2015 about his experience with the 200. And I remember reading it. He was talking about hiking through the mud and all this stuff. It just sounded like so insane and terrible. At the time, I was racing like, the XC 30 mile, 40 mile races, and it was just like 200 miles sounds insane to me. And then, but that's when it first hit my radar was back then in 2015. And then having you on last year saying that about you wanted to do something you weren't sure you could finish, that was a big, yeah. So there were a lot of things that inspired me. And I have a buddy of mine also he did the Trans Iowa, which is there's you
Big.
have to do your own routing. There's no course map. It seems like even more extreme. They don't do them anymore. But he did that 3 years running. He used to be a rep for Giant. He's up in Oregon, and he's like an adventure savage person. He's cross country skiing, rock climbing, whatever you name it. He just does everything. But yeah, so it's like an arc where this type of event kind of got put on my radar, and then shit, now now I've done it. And
There you go.
I'm gonna keep on doing it too.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it,
Nick,
man.
are you in for another year of this?
Um, yeah, I'm open, like we were thinking I'm in for another crazy adventure like this, and we are kind of talking possibly Traca or something.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sold. I'm like, yeah, all in on the just ultra Kool-Aid now. Yeah, it's funny because even a couple years ago, I was like, I don't know if I do Unbound 200, and then I just kept doing longer rides, and that is just what my default mode is, just going out and doing some huge stupid rides, and
I love
I
it.
find myself creating bigger, crazier routes, and I think there's a lot of exploration to be done, and just in the racing scene, but also like where we're at in the foothills. So I'm not sure if it's going to be Unbound XL next year, but we're going to cook up something huge, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So pretty non-committal there from from Nick. All right. So do you guys know about the chalice? Do you know about this? So there's an Unbound chalice that they give to people that put 1,000 miles of Unbound in.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah. So
Where am I at?
Almost there.
You're
yeah,
not.
you got one more XL in you. I think you get one.
See, I don't even
So
need that. I just need
Okay.
300, I think, or
yeah.
190. I need 190.
Okay. Well, I found out about it when I mentioned we had Dan Hughes on, and yeah, he wanted to create something for athletes that have, come and put, massive miles on instead of just doing it once or twice. Uh, at the time, his idea was for the people that do 5 200s, but it's basically you put 1,000 miles in on the Flint Hills and you get a chalice. So that might be some inspiration.
I
We
think
love
they're.
these tchotchke items that really mean almost nothing, but
Yeah.
what we'll do for a tchotchke.
There's a frying pan for
Yeah, this is the one Vince needs, the frying pan.
frying pan for 5 XLs.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
cast iron. So
No kidding. So for
yeah,
5 Unbound XLs.
Yeah.
5 XLs, you get cast iron
Uh,
pan.
okay, so I need to figure this out because yeah, so maybe the chalice is just for the 200.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll see if I can get to the bottom of that.
Yeah, look into it.
We
That'd
get
be
it
a
figured
good
out.
pre-race cooking item right there.
Yeah. Scotty, I know you have a ton on your plate with obviously opening a new business, running an existing killer restaurant, one of my favorites, Origami, and now you have this new place. Is it realistic to think that you may be able to tackle XL in 2026, or is that just ridiculous?
Why not?
Hmm. Wine.
All right. And how about you, Jeremy? I feel like the whole thing was just kind of a breeze to you. I mean, you're just like shit. Next day you're riding. I saw you did your third highest 20-minute
Yeah,
power like 2
yeah,
days after the event or something.
yeah, yeah. I was surprised by that as well. But
I
yeah,
was
no,
annoyed.
my dad grew up doing these kind of long distance races, and this was the first one where he was like, "You finally one upped me." So
Ah,
yeah,
nice.
I'm stoked for more.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
that's great. All right. Well, listen up, fellas. I'm a huge fan of the Enjoy Cycling Club. I love what you guys do for cycling in the area, and I just want to thank you for the inspiration and joining me today on the podcast. And look forward to more adventures together. So
Heck yeah.
thank
Yep.
you
Thanks, Mike.
all. All right, guys. With that, we're going to wrap it up, everybody. Thanks for listening. If you like what we're doing here at Cycle Jerks Podcast and you would like to support us, please check out our website at cyclejerkspodcast.buzzsprout.com. Hit the subscribe button. We shout out all subscribers, so get on it. Another way you can support the podcast would be by giving us a 5-star review on whatever streaming platform that you're listening on. We appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Cycle Jerks.
Hey, get out of the road, dummy.
Cycle Jerks Podcast.